It makes me happy to be given this special degree along with you today. In a shocking turn of events that is shaking the Catholic Church to its core, Cardinal Luis has started a conversation that has never been seen before, leaving millions of faithful followers around the world speechless. In June, Cardinal Luis had what seemed like a normal conversation with US priests about how tensions were rising over Pope Francis' radical plan to change the Church. To help you remember that Jesus prays for you, as their fight fades, deeper worries about Catholic identity and big changes start to show. Could this argument be the start of the biggest change in modern Catholic history? Come with us as we talk about everything about these two big names in Christ's recent heated arguments. God, who is love, please help the poor. The human family, everything in the world, a shocking discovery. There are rumors going around inside the Vatican that Cardinal Tagle's challenge to Pope Francis goes further than anyone thought. Behind closed doors, a story even more intense was developing while the world watched their public fight. Insiders at the Vatican call it the Summer of Discontent. In July 2023, 5 conservative cardinals sent in their controversial Dubai, which was a huge theological surprise. Not just any questions, they went after 2 of the Church's most touchy issues, homosexuality and the priesthood of women. Now, though, things get really interesting. Pope Francis didn't just answer those questions when he replied on October 2023. He broke decades of accepted ways of doing things. Like his 2016 groundbreaking Amoris Laetitia book, statistics show that after this document came out, big dioceses around the world increased the number of pastoral approaches they made to divorced Catholics by 40%. There is a lot of anger between traditionalists and reformers right now. Some church historians even say it's like the changes that happened during Vatican II. We all know how that turned out to be. We need to look at Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle's amazing journey to really understand how big this fight is. Cardinal Luis was born in Manila in 1957, and his rise through the church ranks reads like a spiritual success story. But what he did after he was ordained in 1982 is what really makes him unique. His PhD from the Catholic University of America wasn't just any academic success. It made him one of the youngest cardinals in modern church history. It was especially focused on the problems that are shaking the Church to its core right now. While everyone is talking about the religious debate, not many people know about the shocking things that Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte said about Cardinal Luis. There were so many serious claims of meddling in politics that reports of Vatican involvement spread like wildfire. Even though these claims were quickly shot down by other bishops, they add another layer to the drama that is playing out. Let's talk about the other important people in this religious battle. This is Pope Francis. He is the first Latin American pope and the first Jesuit to ever wear the papal hat. While he was still a chemical worker, Jorge Mario Bergoglio became the most powerful person in the Catholic Church. This will blow your mind. He became pope in 2013 and has changed the Church's structure more than any other pope in the past 60 years. And since we're talking about changes, his use of social media has changed the way the Pope talks to people. He really lives up to his name as the digital Pope. More than 53 million people follow him on Twitter in different languages. It's not all likes and retweets, though. The Church under Francis has had problems that have never been seen before, especially with cases of abuse. Recent studies show that his efforts to be more open have led to a 67% rise in reported cases. This number both supports his method and brings up important questions. As the conversations in the Catholic Church have changed, Pope Francis and Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle have stood out as separate speakers, each with their own take on the Church's most important problems. During the year 2023, Pope Francis looked at world problems through a broad, revolutionary lens. Cardinal Luis, on the other hand, kept a more traditional, locally rooted approach to faith and practice. In his October 24th letter, De Lexit Nos, Pope Francis wrote about how a person's heart could be seen as the core of who they are, as it sets them apart, shapes their spiritual identity, and helps them connect with others. This document, which didn't get as much attention as his social encyclicals Laudato Si and Fratelli Tutti, shows how the Church's response to modernization is tense. That's not all, though. Cardinal Luis, who is the vice head of the Dicastery for Evangelization, told Vatican News what he thought. His carefully chosen words showed small changes in focus. While acknowledging the Pope's goal, Cardinal Luis's answer focused on the traditional ways of praying, especially in the Philippines where he is from. I also want to thank the Filipino people in my own small way. The difference between them becomes clearer in how they handle synodality, which points to a possible gap between global change and local tradition. While Pope Francis wants to change structures and include more people, Cardinal Luis stresses how important it is for pastors and followers to have personal ties. He says that missionary synodality risks becoming nothing more than bureaucratic and legalistic plans if human relationships aren't cleaned up by divine grace. This could be seen as a mild criticism of some reform efforts. Devotion to the Sacred Heart is still very popular in the Philippines, where Cardinal Luis has a lot of power. This spirituality from the ground up, which focuses on family and country identity, is an interesting contrast to Francis's vision, which is more focused on the whole world. Cardinal Luis says that they ask the heart of Jesus to rule and govern their families and country with his love and kindness. This is a more traditional way of thinking about faith and government. As the Church gets closer to the Jubilee in 2025, these different points of view, Francis's push for global change and Cardinal Luis' focus on traditional devotion, make the leadership of the Church very tense. Both men talk about hope and rebirth, but the ways they plan to reach their goals show that they have different ideas for the future of the Church. People are talking about the balance between tradition and reform since Dilexit Nos came out. Cardinal Luis's answer shows that he supports this, but he is also very cautious. He reminded us that we should always ask Jesus to change our hearts. It could be seen as both a support for Francis's goal and a quiet call for more gradual change. Cardinal Luis has consistently pushed for synodality in the Church throughout 2023, taking part in a number of interviews and conversations about Pope Francis's plans to reform the Church. He has made it clear that he supports efforts to get more lay people involved and women in top positions in the Church. Cardinal Luis's approach to reform has been one of careful progress, even as he hints in a subtle way that he might have done things differently. When Pope Francis' letter came out on October 24, 2023, Cardinal Luis thought a lot about what it meant, especially in light of the coming Jubilee. As Pro-Prefect of the Dicastery for Evangelization, he stressed that love should be at the heart of church life and saw the Sacred Heart of Jesus as a way to bring hope and kindness to a world that is broken. Cardinal Luis talked about his Filipino heritage in his conversation with Vatican media. He talked about how devotion to the Sacred Heart of Jesus is a big part of Filipino culture and his own childhood. People were especially interested in when Dilexit Nos came out, after Laudato Si and Fratelli Tutti, which were encyclicals on Francis's social teaching. When asked about this strange turn of events, Cardinal Luis gave a wise response by calling Pope Francis a pope of surprises. He said that the news and publication of the encyclical came as a bit of a surprise because of the focus on the Synod of Bishops. However, it wasn't completely unexpected that the Holy Father would write an encyclical about Jesus' love, which is shown in his Sacred Heart. Cardinal Luis saw the letter as a link between Francis's earlier works because it made the Christological basis of Laudato Si and Fratelli Tutti clearer. He said that accepting Jesus' love makes it possible for people to see each other as brothers and sisters, and to care for, be humble about, and be responsible stewards of their shared home. He told people to read these older social encyclicals again because he thought they might already have parts of Dilexit Nos in them. People in the Philippines, where devotion to the Sacred Heart is still very popular among Christians, really connected with this link to everyday faith. There was a lot of tension on July 21, 2024, when Cardinal Luis went to Indianapolis as Pope Francis' special representative to the Holy Mass Congress.